Hello everyone, the Anime Down here with another video. This time we will be looking at comedy series. Not many things feel better than laughing out loud, and these series will definitely provide that. But before we start, consider subscribing and leaving a like, it helps us a ton. First off, we have the daily lives of high school boys. This is a great series focusing on 3 high school boys and their daily life doing all sorts of wacky things. For instance, when they simulate RPG quests or dress up in skirts in order to feel what it is like. Gags like these are what make up this series. Every episode is separated into particular parts focusing on a particular situation, so there's a lot of different takes to make you laugh even if something fails. These situations involve the main characters but can also feature other characters, and all of them have their own quirk. Tadakuni is supposedly the main character, and he's the type of guy who gets dragged along into the wacky ideas and games of Hidenori and the stupid Yoshitake. Their interactions together but also with other characters and the situations they get into are all incredibly funny. Especially because the voice actors picked for this series were all great in their roles, and they enhanced the comedy because they made characters mesh off each other naturally. This is a great renowned series that's quite down to earth and simple with its comedy, but it works so well because it does really remind me of the stupid things that students do at school when with their friends. Next we have Arakawa Under the Bridge. It is probably the opposite of the daily life of high school boys. It has a setting that is more wacky. For instance, Ko, the main character, is the heir to a conglomerate, but has since his childhood relied on himself to get things done. This was not something he decided for himself, however, but something that was imposed on him by his father, and it's the family motto to never rely on anyone for absolutely anything. So at the age of 3, he found himself having to take care of his father as a baby to repay him for the previous 3 years where his father took care of him. So when the stubborn main character finds himself being saved by a strange homeless girl, he has to repay her in any way possible. However, Nino, the girl, does not want money or a house but a boyfriend. So he becomes her boyfriend, but also she wants him to live with her under the bridge. Without choice, his life under the bridge commences. Why is it the opposite of daily lives of high school boys, you say? Well, that's because this series is a lot more absurd with its comedy. Nino does not live under the bridge alone, there are many others that form a community and each is more wacky than the other. For instance, there is a mayor and he's a kappa, well, not really, he's just a guy dressed up as one, but who is stubborn in saying he's a kappa regardless of when others point otherwise. The comedy emerges from these interactions between Ko and the weird people living under the bridge. Another great feature of the series is the voice actors, they all play their roles really well, especially Kamiya Hiroshi, who voiced Ko. Alongside this is the fact that it was animated by Shaft, so it has great and vibrant animation with their unique style that adds to the series. Overall, this is a top comedy show that should get a lot of laughs from anyone. Hamaoka Kenji in Urayasu Tekken Kazoku decided to showcase the daily life of a special family in his hometown, and this series is the result of that. Of course, if such a mad family in the city actually existed, I would be sure to move to it because no day would be the same. Urayasu Tekken Kazoku is a series with a much simpler comedy style than the others in this list so far. It is about the madness of the Osawagi family and the hijinks every person of the family gets up to in their daily life. The story shifts to the various members of the family, but for the most part it focuses on the second son of the family, Kotetsu, an elementary school child. Everything is super wacky in this series, and not in a surreal sense like Cromartie, but in that there is simply a lot of exaggeration and incredibly absurd situations. For instance, when the teacher of Kotetsu's class, a Bruce Lee wannabe who wants to be seen as strong but is extremely weak and also rather idiotic like the rest of the cast, he whilst crazily chasing for money falls into the middle of a carriageway and the traffic passing never slows down, so he finds himself stranded for days. Aside from him, there's also a large cast of fun characters. On top of this, there is the entertaining narrator who adds a lot to the comedy in the anime. This is a great series that sadly is too short. Next we have Detroit Metal City. It is similar to Urayasu Tekken Kazoku with its comedy coming from absurd situations. Negishi is an aspiring musician who dreams of a career in pop music, however he ends up as the front man in a heavy metal band where he has to play the persona of Krauser. He does not really like heavy metal, but he needs to do it for a living. Things get weird when he meets his crush back from university again. She liked his pop music and asks him what he's doing, and he tries to pass it off. So he tries to reignite the chance of a relationship with his crush whilst hiding his real identity, but it is tough because the friends of Krauser and Detroit Metro City are really fanatic, and he gets in many hijinks with them. For instance, after a show he says something randomly, but fans take it to heart and arrange a meetup at the Tokyo Tower at full moon. He has to act in order not to piss off the fans and the chief of the band, so he finds himself trying to play the persona that the fans created in their own heads, as a totally crazy dude. I really like the comedy in this show. Negishi having to do all sorts of crazy things is really fun to see, and the music is great, well, if you like metal. Next we have Seito Kai Yakuin Domo. Seito Kai is all about dirty jokes, so it is very dialogue heavy, but unlike Zetsubo Sensei, the references can be understood without any knowledge of Japan. It does however still use the Mansai style comedy of Boke and Tsukomi that not everyone enjoys or understands. But if you have not read or experienced any comedy series like that, I think this is one to try. This comedy style is embedded into the story that features Takahashi, who chooses to go to a nearby school that recently turned co-ed. It was previously an all-girls school. On his very first day, he is recruited into the student council staff. The 3 other members of the council are all girls. The president is the intelligent Shino, the secretary is the competent Arya, and the treasurer is the genius Hagimura. So Takahashi becomes the vice president and the first ever male member of the student council staff. The 3 girls are all exceptional, but Shino loves dirty jokes together with Arya, and often Takahashi has to act as the Tsukomi straight man to their jokes together with the other normal member of the club, Hagimura. The series is separated into small segments, each with a particular joke on a situation. This division in episodes makes it quite digestible since it changes around quite a bit, like something like daily life for high school boys. So if a particular situation did not make you laugh, another might. I enjoy re-watching this series every now and then, and in addition to the comedy, there's also some romance. Next we have Gintama. Gintama is great, its comedy style resembles Urayasu with a focus on absurd and comical situations. Similarly to that series too, it has a lot of parodies of series like One Piece and the likes that featured in the same manga magazine as it did in the past. However, unlike Urayasu Tekken Kazoku, Gintama has a more mature art style that makes it, I think, less silly from the onset. The star of the show in the series is the trio that forms the main cast, Gintoki, Shinpachi and Kagura. Shinpachi is a Tsukomi or straight man of the group, reacting to the laziness of Gintoki and the stupidity of Kagura. The comedy here can be hit and miss, with some episodes being funnier than others, but it has a wide range of jokes and parodies alongside a cast of likable characters. These characters actually develop through the story, unlike most other series in this list, since Gintama actually has serious arcs and a plot that it develops slowly. However, even serious arcs usually have a comedy backdrop to them, and there are many jokes and absurd situations within them. So overall, there's a lot to enjoy here, but I cannot forget to talk about the great voice actors, who deliver their lines with great skill, and they also play their characters really well too. Gintama is a load of fun. Its length could discourage people from trying it, but just ignore that and give it a try and see if you enjoy it. Next we have Osomatsu-san or Mr. Osomatsu. Osomatsu is an original anime based on the successful manga series Osomatsu-kun. This series modernizes the manga and places it into a contemporary setting, and this is important because the jokes in the series can be very contextual, like in episode 3, when the brothers are tricked into working at a black company. Black company is a contemporary term used in Japan to refer to exploitative companies in Japan, but they work without realizing their status until they have a sudden epiphany. In that sense it can resemble Zetsubo Sensei, but its comedy is more visual, so it feels very different. The series was one of the most popular anime in recent times, and for good reason, as a star-studded line of voice actors that are all great in their roles. Alongside this are the jokes like the one I previously mentioned that are contextual and relatable, especially since there are 6 people in their 20s all without any real jobs, and are just doing wacky stuff, and since the brothers all have their own quirky personalities, they each stand out in their own way. So even if you don't like a brother for some reason, there will definitely be at least another one that you will like. It is overall just a really well-rounded comedy series with a lot of charm. Next we have Hayate no Gotoku. Hayate is also a series with a much simpler comedy style. The initial setup is quite absurd. The main character, Hayate, has been exploited by his dumb money-wasting parents since his childhood. So he has had to work since he was only a small child, but that was all for naught because ultimately his parents take out a loan and flee, leaving him as the collateral to take on the burden of the debt alone. So Hayate is chased by very kind people who want the money they are owed. Hayate is saved when he meets Nagi, a billionaire girl that falls for him and hires him to become her butler. Hilarity ensues from there on because things can get quite absurd since Hayate is a superhuman who has a lot of random skills he learned from his experience of working as a child, but his lack of luck means he is always ending up in trouble one way or another. There is a romantic backdrop as hinted by the setting, but that develops slowly to begin with. Hayate is mostly a comedic series that explores wacky situations and makes a lot of parodies and references to many other series, especially games, recognizable cultural pregnancy from Japan, and of course other anime. I find these references always quite funny and it shares this trait with Gintama in this aspect. It is a very fun series to watch and read like most of the series in this list. Next we have Sayonara Zetsubou Sensei. It is another series with Kamiya Hiroshi as the main character. However, this series, unlike the others in this list, has a more Japanese style comedy. By that I mean it replicates manzai comedy, which can fly over the heads of people outside of Japan. In addition to that, it is also having references to various issues debates in Japanese society. After these warnings, for better or for worse, Sayonara is an incredibly funny series that pokes fun at various things present in Japanese society. The main character Nozomu, when his name is written horizontally, it resembles the character Zetsubou, which means despair. So he feels that he is extremely unlucky and therefore he is always filled with pessimism. And the characters also have this association of their names with their personality traits. This is something Kumeta Koji likes to do and all his series have had this. However, of course, this is another thing that is difficult for non-Japanese watchers to clearly notice. However, what I enjoyed the most of this series is how the comedy works. Every episode deals with a particular situation in the world, which Nozomu stumbles onto that causes him to fall into despair. This is fun because this is often caused by something trivial, and it's fun to see the reaction this causes in his quirky students. It received 5 seasons, so it definitely got a lot of love in Japan, and I also enjoyed this series a ton. Its comedy and animation style alongside the great work of the voice actors all meshed really well. I did describe Arakawa as wacky, but Cromartie High School is wacky as well, but it takes it up a few notches to the level that it's kind of a surreal comedy. Kamiyama, the main character, a goody two-shoes student, mistakenly enrolled at Cromartie High School. This mistake cost him a lot, because Cromartie is the best school alright, for Yankees. The Yankee in the school, however, are not normal and not in a suspenseful way, but in an absurd way. There is a gorilla, Freddie Mercury and a robot at the school alongside many other wacky characters. Kamiyama becomes entwined in the craziness that people get up to within the school, as well as other crazy guys from other schools. Everything is super crazy in this series and the episodes are not linked in any substantial way, so don't expect a story here. However, there is a lot of great funny references like Freddy as previously mentioned and other really stupid scenarios. Kamiyama might seem like a serious person, but he's constantly causing weird situations alongside the other crazy characters. It is funny if you enjoy this sort of surreal parody comedy. One last thing, the opening song for this anime is one of my all-time favorites. Have a listen when you can. So that was the video guys, what did you think? I'm sure at least one of these series will give you some laughters. If they do, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe and ring the bell. Also, don't forget to check out my blog for anime news and opinions and follow us on Twitter and Instagram. Links are all down below. Catch you guys later.